Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. The Indian Foundation for Quality Management is an industry body which has come together to enhance the quality of manufacturing, the quality of services in India. There is a larger aim to make India a developed nation by 2047, and this organization aims to handhold the manufacturing companies and also support MSMEs across the value chain to increase their quality and also their participation in global value chains. Joining us right now are two industry veterans leading this body, Venu Srinivasan, the chairman of the Indian Foundation for Quality Management and the chairman emeritus of TVS Motor Company, and the former MD and president of Bosch India, Soumitra Bhattacharya, who is leading the IFQM body as the CEO. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me begin by asking you about the thought. When you look at the IFQM brochure, you think about the fact that you already have a Bureau of Indian Standards. You have a Quality Control Council of India. Why is it really important to have a body of this kind?
I will start with a comment and then leave it to Soumitra to fill in. We want to create a leadership transformation to build competitive services and products in the country. Others regulate the minimum standards required to sell a product, but it is not the maximum standards that the customer wants. There's an old Pepsi ad, Dil Mange More. They don't talk about that. They only talk about kafi hai.
Okay, sir, if I were to ask you to elaborate on that, what do you think is the larger purpose of IFQM right now, and why is it important? What is the gap in the system that you need to fill?
So I think we have to go back to the genesis of why IFQM was born. When you have, leaders like our chairman Venu Srinivasan, in our board, Mr. N. Chandrasekharan, and the various other founding members coming forward for the first time in India to say that this is something that we are doing with nation first and industry next, and has nothing to do with their own industry and companies, where they say that we want to do this with a purpose, and I call it something like the woods for the trees and the trees for the woods. The woods for the trees is this overarching aspect of quality in everything we do. And you just heard from our chairman that, it starts from the top. Leadership transformation means not CEO participation, but CEO commitment. And this has to go from top floor to shop floor. So when this concept is started, and when, the intention which gets converted into action of a well-governed, well-funded organization which is born, then there's a purpose to say we want to be inclusive, we want to take people along, and we want to put meat into Viksit Bharat.
Putting meat into Viksit Bharat, this is the Prime Minister's vision to have a developed country by 2047. You spoke about Dil Mange More. What is really missing in our manufacturing ecosystem right now, Mr. Srinivasan? Yesterday we heard Kamal Bali of Volvo say that when it comes to manufacturing as a percentage of our GDP, it has been stagnant at 14 to 16% for 20-25 years. What do you think is the reason for that?
There are 2 or 3 reasons we should focus upon, the vital few. One is deregulation. The deregulation is done by the central government. But every state, all the regulations that were in place from independence are still in place. Where land, water, labor, electricity, all the requirements for manufacturing are still moribund and bound with red tape. A few states which have broken through, Tamil Nadu, for example, or Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, a few have broken through, but all other states are still stuck there. So if you want to really create a manufacturing revolution, particularly providing jobs for 100 million people, then we have to make mass manufacturing, large concentration of labor possible to do it easily. And yesterday I saw an item where one textile fabrication company has gone from 2,000 to 11,000 people, but they got to 5 plants because they're afraid of concentration of labor. that has to be a compact between society and business and government that we need to encourage. Why can't they be in the same place? That would reduce the cost of manufacturing. If our productivity has remained flat, volumes have gone up. So this has to change with electronics manufacturing, toy manufacturing, textiles, and the mass labor opportunities that India can grab.
Right. Talking about the agenda of IFQM once again, how is this grouping, this industry body where 8 or 9 leading companies from India have come together to support the industry and MSMEs, how will it work? How will it handhold companies and groom them, give them recommendations for quality in manufacturing and quality in services?
Yeah, so we have various pillars in IFQM, which we have done a lot of debate, discussion within first our governing council, who are all our founders, and then also within our board, who are also founding members, including an independent director. So the objective has been to have a very focused approach. And there are 7 pillars, but I'll just share a few. One very strong pillar that we are working on is counseling and assessment. And if I quote what our chairman mentions very often, is the Gurukul approach, where the mentor actually not only assesses but walks the journey with the disciple. So if counseling gets into that, where you walk the journey and then you do an assessment, if we have another pillar called learning and development. We have this pillar called symposium, and you've been a part of it, Parikshit, and you saw we are wanting to have reflective dialogue to invite industry onto this movement for implementation. So it's not a non-closed loop, it's a closed loop system with an invite. Yeah. So basically IFQM is a very well thought out, professional, not-for-profit company done for the first time in India by captains of industry of very high repute, and as I said, not what any of the captains get, but how to give back to the country.
The fact that people like you, people like N. Chandrasekharan came together with the thinking that we need a body like the Indian Foundation for Quality Management, clearly there was a problem somewhere. What exactly is the extent of problem when we speak about quality in manufacturing, quality in services right now? Because we have global ambitions. Even over the last 2 days, so many of the speakers have come and said that India's time has come. But there is a certain worry as well. So what is that worry and the extent
I
of
will
problem?
address one or two and request Soumitra to complement. But one major problem that we have is that it is patchy. There is a software business which is globally recognized as the center for software, and even the multinationals, Capgemini or whether it is Accenture or IBM, have their biggest centers in India. Also the global centers of excellence as Bosch, Mercedes and many, many more who have their engineering centers here. Then you have TCS, Infosys, Mindtree, L&T, HCL and many other smaller companies, Zoho. But then you have pharma. Then you have automobiles which are exported worldwide, both auto components and automobile companies. But then you have textiles. But then you have a lot of companies which are not competitive. A lot of sectors which are not competitive. So that is the gap you're trying to fill, that India holistically must go forward. You can't have Viksit Bharat with a few people doing very well and others being left behind.
Which of the sectors...
I'd like to add a couple of sentences.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one question to what Mr. Srinivasan said and left at. Which are the sectors which you feel need urgent addressing according to you?
Right. So I'll put it this way, Parikshit. Let's look at the sectors which have relatively a stronger play in the global market, and then we can understand. If you take an industry which both of us come from, which is called automotive or now mobility, that has shown relatively a higher resilience, and it shows in both our numbers, our qualities, including what gets made in India gets exported. That's the acid test. Now, if you look at that industry, and if you look at a few other industries like, now you take services, software industry, yeah, and they have standards like CMM and things like that. Now, there are a vast majority of industries who have different levels of maturity within the industry. You have brilliant examples of Sun Pharma, but you also have in pharma the smaller, which many times give a distribute to India. So we took cognizance of the fact that the developed countries like Japan, Korea, Germany, US, they do not give you a differentiated or a surprised or an unreliable experience. They give you, I mean, you heard from Puneet Ranjan, and I have been going to that country for the last 34 years now, Germany. The Mittelstand in Germany will give you the same quality, same experience as the OEMs. So our attempt, and that's why this focus on MSME and clusters, yeah, and that's why the focus on asking big companies to do something for the MSMEs and clusters and give back. So our attempt is to create a seamless and reliable experience of India across sectors, but also in the source, make, deliver, and not say that MSMEs will give differentiated, big guys will give differentiated. That's one of the critical challenges.
Right. Do you think that this patchy quality in services across the board in the value chain in India, patchy quality of manufacturing, like Mr. Srinivasan said, and you added that in some pockets, in some sectors, we are very, very good. We have global standards, but in others, we are patchy. Do you think that is somehow also impacting our export journey?
Of course. The weakest chain in the link will reduce the speed of the vehicle on the road. The weakest chain will reduce the whole quality experience to that extent. If we want to have a reliable Viksit Bharat, reliable, and a brand which comes, in place in the same strength of the developed countries, then the entire value chain has to have that level of quality which we call as being globally competitive,
right,
and export capable.
Right.
I would like to add one more thing. What Soumitra touched upon. In all those countries, variability is low. If I buy from Korea, I know the quality will be minimum so much, and the variability between the best and the poorest will not be so high. Whereas Sony TV or a Panasonic TV or LG TV or a Samsung TV, there will be differences, but you're not going to be shocked. Whereas in India, what he has said is that there are companies of varying quality, both in services, where you take hospitality, hospitals, medical care, any service that you take, even financial services, you have variability. We want to bring the variability in India down so that anybody comes out, oh, India must be good quality.
For the last 5 to 6 years, we've been hearing about the phrase China plus one. Countries looking to either move out of China or having a manufacturing destination in addition to China. But recently, the World Bank also, Mr. Srinivasan, said that a lot of those China plus one investments, especially in labor-intensive manufacturing exports, is not actually going to India. There are 5 countries which have gained from the loss of China's share, but India is not there. Do you think that is something we need to really focus on?
We have to focus on that, and that's where the states come in, which I said right at the beginning. But having said that, India is today second largest cell phone maker in the world. It has moved. Some sectors have moved. But we wanted to move. For example, why should Bangladesh export more textiles than India does? Toys, why can't we be the world's largest toy manufacturer? So any handicrafts. Because there we need to reduce the variability in quality and make it easy to agglomerate 20,000 people, 40,000 people, 100,000 people in one estate and have assurance that they will not have labor problems. We also have to assure, of course, that labor gets a fair deal and is treated fairly, which may not be true of some of the countries that you mentioned. I don't want to mention names.
Do you feel, Mr. Srinivasan, that time for this is running out?
We have a much shorter window. Japan had a long time after World War II. They started and they peaked by 1990. Korea, the peak was already shorter, and China, the peak will be shorter, and for India, the peak will be even shorter because half-life is rapidly dropping across products and services. So we need to act the next 5 to 10 years. We don't have forever to make use of the demographic dividend because our population will start aging, and we should not remain a middle-income country by the time we run out of people.
That's an important point. Everyone, even the World Bank president has said that when you speak about China +1, all these opportunities are just there for about 4 to 5 years. You've given
10 maybe.
You've given this a 10-year window. The other point that I would like to connect to this larger theme of quality in services, quality in manufacturing, is jobs-led growth, something that is very close to the Prime Minister's heart and the Indian government's agenda. This was a big point during the election campaign as well, lack of quality jobs in the country. How do we ensure that while ensuring that we're making world-class products and providing world-class services?
There are two aspects of it. One is first the demand for jobs, and that has to come by these large labor clusters. And Tata Electronics is one, and there are so many other phone companies, the Taiwanese company, who are now employing large number of people, Foxconn. But the next level has to be supply of skilled labor. So skilling is also equally important. And that was mentioned by many speakers over the last 2 days, that there must be a second branch from 7th grade where you go on to a technical skill of good order. And our ITIs are broken down and have not been replaced by anything else. And everybody can't get a degree. A large number will have to work with their hands and have skills, but paying a good quality of life job. So both have a two-pronged approach. One is to create the environment where labor can congregate in one place without fear of disruption. And the other side is to upskill people in the country.
Now I'd like to speak to both of you about a subject that's very close to your hearts, and you've been handling it for decades, and that is the automobile sector. And it's probably better to define it as mobility now. Mr. Srinivasan, if we speak about electric mobility today, clearly we are at an inflection point. Over the last few years, we have seen certain startups facing a lot of quality issues. Some have faced regulatory scrutiny. Recently, Ola Electric has faced 10,000 customer complaints over service issues, over maintenance, over warranty, and all of this has been escalated with the ministry and government as well. What is the lesson in all of this?
The lesson is you have to plan for quality first and meeting customer requirement first. Innovation without those guardrails of quality and customer will have problems. But innovation also is what forces others to compete. Whether it's Bajaj or TVS, we all now got our products, but we've brought with us the expertise of quality and consistency. But others, the startups will also learn. It's not that they have problems. Every innovation has a problem. Tesla had a lot of quality problems, but they are also improving and getting on. So innovators will face problems. That is the first mover advantage they will have of creating the market, but they will then have to catch up with quality and customers. So that's part of the process of innovation.
Right. My final set of questions now. Mr. Srinivasan, what would your outlook be for the EV sector and for the Indian mobility sector as a whole by 2030? The subsidies are coming to an end in the next 2 years. Probably we'll see the real picture then. But if I were to ask you about where do you see the mobility sector going in terms of percentage and a breakup?
See, subsidies had to be there in the beginning to incentivize a change in technology. But subsidies cannot be the basis on which a product or a technology or a service can continue forever. But fortunately, battery prices are dropping, electronic prices will drop, and within a few years, battery vehicles will be as expensive or as inexpensive as ICE vehicles. So that's a reality. There will still be charging, infrastructure, range issues, but we do see in scooters already that battery vehicles have made a good impact. And I think definitely as Bajaj or TVS, other regular, legacy manufacturers, we will find a way to profitability with ICE and it will continue. I can't give a date by 2030. I disagreed with Niti Aayog when they said by 23 we will ban all ICE vehicles. That would have made you completely dependent on one country for all the supplies. That was not healthy for the country either. But we are developing the infrastructure for motors, batteries in India, and with PLI it will take place. What percentage? I think in scooters will be a greater percentage, in motorcycles will be a smaller percentage, and other technologies like CNG will also have to play a role. So it will not be one option, but definitely more and more electric vehicles will come into the urban area.
Right. And finally, just last week, we lost an industry veteran, somebody who has really guided not just the Tata Group, but the Indian manufacturing industry and taken it to new heights. I'd like both of you, because both of you in some way or the other have been associated with the Tata Group very actively. Mr. Bhattacharya, what would be your tribute to Mr. Ratan Tata, and what lies ahead for the company?
Yeah, I think I have to be honest to say that, Venu, you've been a person who's far more actively, but I'll share my experience in 2 sentences. I started my career in the Tata Group and at Jamshedpur, and I did one more stint as one of the starting members of a brand which was not yet formed called Tanishq. So I'll be ever grateful, and I had a chance at Jamshedpur to have a chance to meet up with famous Mr. J.R.D. Tata, and at that time the young Ratan Tata. For me, those impressions as a young boy of meeting a legend like J.R.D. and a legend in the making like Mr. R.N. Tata will always remain lasting impressions. And I think what Tatas have done, and including what Mr. Ratan Tata has done, cannot be described. I think it is not just for Tata Group, it is for India and the globe.
Right. So any personal anecdotes?
You know, I knew Ratan from the time he became head of Tatas. I remember meeting him at Lucknow at a suppliers conference for Tata Motors, and Lucknow plant was set up. A very charming and very dynamic younger person then, much older than I even at that time. Ratan, I have said, you know, once in a century a leader like Ratan comes. Ratan was a leader with both heart and mind, which is very rare. What he has done for cancer and treatment of people across India is really will never be repeated again in the scale that he did it and the heart that he did it. What he did in putting India on the map, whether with Jaguar Land Rover, Chorus, Tata Tetli, TCS going global, it's not only in products, in services, Tata Finance, across the board, India Hotels. He is a legend in his lifetime. And, you know, all the emotions are so mixed in him. All the world stood up and said, there goes a man.
That's beautiful, sir. And finally, what would be your thoughts about what lies ahead for Tata Group for its next chapter for the next 25 years under Mr. Noel Tata?
I think you must look at from Jamshedji Tata to Dorab Tata to J.R.D. Tata to Ratan Tata. This is an institution, what we call in Sanskrit a samsthan. A samsthan will go on. The next leader will come, carry the torch and take it to greater heights.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Srinivasan, Mr. Bhattacharya, for joining us, taking out time and painstakingly explaining every aspect of the Indian Foundation for Quality Management. It's clearly a very important moment for the Indian manufacturing industry. Quality is something we've always been speaking about, and this is a concerted effort to take it in the right direction. And you're leaving us with some very important thoughts that we have a 10-year window to rise up and prove ourselves to the world. Thank you once again
Thanks,
for being with us.
Parikshit. Thank you for having us.
That's all we have time for on this special broadcast. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.